We must congratulate the Ministry of Education. I think this is about their fourth session here in this year alone, 2018, and how well they have engaged the media so far in giving out all the information that needs to be given. For those of us who are here for the first time or first-time viewers or listeners, this is a platform where key state players lay before the citizenry through the media key actions and government directives, and it's an opportunity for their actions to be challenged and for better dialogue.
We in the ministry are prosecuting an agenda following the victory of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in the 2016 elections. And one of our key deliverables is to ensure that the quality of education is enhanced in this country. We believe that quality of education can never be enhanced if the teacher is not at the center of whatever you are doing. Placing the teacher at the center means a lot, and we are trying to tackle all the issues to do with teacher education, training, retention, to ensure that the quality we so desire is met in the shortest possible time. The reason why I'm emphasizing on quality of education is that the word quality of education is one of the most bandied words around. If you improve access and you don't improve quality, if everybody goes and it's bad, bringing many more kids into school means we are lowering quality. We hear all this. But quality of education is multifaceted. And to deal with it, you have to deal with all its different dimensions. Whether it's to do with the pupil at the classroom, it's to do with the teacher teaching the pupil, or the teaching and learning materials. Those three key things all go to improve. You need necessarily to improve all those things before you can knock on the door of quality. So in the manifesto of the MPP, there are major educational reforms that we are undertaking, all in a bid to improve on the quality of education in this country. The four main big goals in the manifesto, one has to do with teacher reforms, one has to do with curricular reforms, one has to do with technical and vocational education reforms, one has to do with tertiary educational reforms. Just last week, I was presented with two huge documents. One, how are we preparing ourselves to receive the many more students who might want to apply to go to university, and generally how are we restructuring tertiary education to make it fit for the purpose for national development. Professor Yanka has been the lead. And just this morning, I've signed an approval for him to engage a stakeholder conference very soon, next month, in Koforidua, as to do with tertiary education reforms, which I can promise will be a subject very soon on another press conference. Just like our teaching, technical and vocational education reform, which Honorable Barbara Asha-Isi is pursuing, would also be another subject of a press conference. I don't think in the month till the end of the year, Ministry of Education will knock on the Ministry of Information if we can have two more press conferences to round up this year. All the press conferences we are doing is directed towards improving educational outcomes in this country and improving the quality of education. The only reason any parent will send their child to school is for the child to learn something and become better or good at that, so that the child can have a progress. The shortest cut between poverty and success is through education as well, is noted. So everything, I hope every government in this country has tried to do is to improve education. We in this country have been subject to bad news internationally about quality of education. So we keep hearing that Ghana has been last in an international assessment. We keep hearing only 2% of primary 2 pupils achieve a certain proficiency at that age. It's bad news, but that bad news didn't start a few years ago. It has been with us. The last time I read and I checked, Educational for All year 2020 goal attainment, there were 6 outcomes. Ghana, in sub-Saharan African countries, achieved 5 of the 6. The one we couldn't achieve was, of course, quality education. MDG goals and everything we are trying to do is to improve quality. So why is it that we have not been able to knock on the door of that gemstone called quality to crack it so that Ghana benefits? And that one of the pillars of which quality of education is, rest assured, is teacher reforms. In this country, and for years, we have moved from teacher certificate to teacher A to set B to diploma to post-sec to diploma to now diploma, and just at the throes of taking it through a degree. All teachers qualified to teach in this country, we hope that starting this year and in probably 3 years' time, will all at least hold a degree. One of the WhatsApp clips that has gone viral in this country that I still get in 8 months, I'm still getting it. It's our intent to compare Ghana's education to Finland. And every week I get a reminder from somebody who has watched the clip. This is what is happening in Finland. One of the biggest issues about education and children's attainment in education is the level of education of that child's parents. Every research around the world, the more educated your parents are, the more better educated your kids become. So we in this country, when we compare ourselves to Finland, we shouldn't only compare the children's attainment in class, we should probably start looking at parental attainment, and it's not the same. So sometimes it's a bit unfair when we compare Finland as a country of 5 billion resources in the trillions to Ghana, where even tertiary education status is nearly 90% where we are. But we are getting there, and it's good in the country to hit above your level, to want to be there with Singapore and Finland. A lot of the things that our curricular reform is doing is using the best examples around the world to situate it in Ghana and see how we can put ourselves on that pathway of progression. This morning's reform, this morning's press brief is to do with what we are doing in teacher education. Since the last time that Ghana got involved in external assessments, that we didn't do well, that government decided to pursue things that will improve quality of education in teacher reform. So that government started implementing Education Act 778. What do I mean by that? Education Act 778 set up 3 regulators: the National Inspectorate Board, the National Teaching Council, and the National Curriculum and National Council for Curriculum and Assessments. Act 778 of 2008. That act was not fully applied till 2012. After that international assessment, and the results were so bad, we started implementing fully that aspect of that educational act. In making sure that the National Inspectorate Board, the National Teaching Council, and the National Council for Curriculum and Assessments all start to do what they were supposed to have been doing to improve on the quality of education, at least in the pre-tertiary sector in this country. What also got hindered along the way was that in 2006-2007, we started a whole educational reform process that has been truncated for some time. So we came to meet the situation where the National Council for National Teaching Council and National Inspectorate Board had no executive secretaries. or the National Council for Curriculum had no executive secretary. But what we also came to meet was the fact that inside the Ghana Education Service, these three bodies still existed, a bit different names. So we have the Teacher Education Division, we have the Council, CRDD, Council for Curriculum Research and Development, and we had the Teacher Education Division. So we had those three bodies, and the Inspectorate Division of the Ghana Education Service. Those three bodies that were supposed to have been migrated into the three regulators still sitting in the Ghana Education Service. Of course, I won't talk about conflict. Today is not about conflict. Today is about road ahead. Fortunately, I call them the three wise ladies. The three wise ladies who were heads of those institutions happened to be heads when we came into office. But also, by the transition of one of the executive secretaries, or the gentleman who held two executive secretary positions in the National Teaching Council and the National Inspectorate Board, had promoted themselves from being an executive secretary to becoming a member of parliament. So the positions were vacant. So one of the first things we did during the transition time was to say that those three positions should migrate out of Ghana Education Service and start playing their independent roles to ensure that quality of education is enhanced. The National Inspectorate Board is supposed to be the officer of this country, is supposed to inspect our schools and make sure they are safe and secure, and what is going on in the schools really is an environment secure for effective teaching and learning. What the National Teaching Council was supposed to do was to ensure that teaching becomes a profession in this country, and that in this country of ours, every profession is regulated by its professional body themselves. The Ghana Legal Council, Ghana Medical Dental Council, the Pharmacy Council, the Architects Registration Council, the Ghana Engineers Council. They all exist to regulate those who call themselves engineers, lawyers, doctors, nurses, midwives, and whatever. So the National Teaching Council was not supposed to be different. It was supposed to be the regulatory body for the profession of teaching in this country. The second mandate was to restructure the whole point about teaching such that once you go to school and you become a teacher, before you call yourself a teacher, that professional body will recognize you as a qualified, truly a qualified teacher. I went to the medical school and completed after 6 years, and I couldn't call myself a medical doctor till my regulator assessed me after 2 years house job to say that yes, you are fit to call yourself a doctor and to practice what we call medicine in this country. That is the same process for lawyers in this country. You have to go through your pupillage and you have to serve before you get your stamp. After going through Makola, which is the professional body, 2 years, you have to do your pupillage and you have to serve your time and get your stamp. Architects do that before you get your stamp. Engineers do it and everybody else does it. So it was time to also help in the improvement of the teacher profession, to help give them a regulator to regulate that space. That space is supposed to be for teachers regulating themselves in law, because there's only a teacher who can tell who is a teacher. Likewise, no professional body outside that profession tells the general public who is a member of that profession. It's only doctors who can tell you this is a fake doctor or not a fake doctor. And it's only lawyers who can tell you a quack lawyer or who is not a quack lawyer. Likewise for accountants, for engineers, and everybody else. So this body, NTC, is supposed to decide on who is a teacher in this country and who is not a teacher. It is not the number of years you have been in a university or tertiary institution studying a course that makes you a professional. It is what that professional body decides to call you that makes you. So an accountant is not the person who has finished Legon with a PhD. It's the person either ACCA or ICA or CA has conferred on him or her the status and the title to call himself or herself an accountant. Likewise, that is what the teaching profession should do. So since 2012, they have been working with support from the Japanese government on something I have never been able to mention: pre-tertiary teacher development and management. It's correct. Pre-tertiary teacher professional development and management. That seeks to really professionalize the teaching core. What do I mean? To put teachers on 2 tracks. One track is a progression of a teacher from when you start so you become somebody like a consultant teacher, just like the nurse or the doctor or something, you get to the highest point in the profession. And the other branch is those who want to become school managers, district directors of education, regional directors, so that a teacher can stay in the classroom and get to the highest point of the profession, not necessarily leaving the classroom and going into something else, or district education or regional, to become the Ghana Education Service boss. That should not be an aspiration of a teacher. An aspiration of the teacher is to become a consultant teacher, to mentor other teachers, and to help grow the caliber of professionals called teachers. So that was ongoing before we came, and thank God that PTT-PDM document has finally been complete, and I think Ghana Education Service will liaise with the National Teaching Council on how to make it effective. But on the back of that, like I said, school management, Ghana Education Service, in migrating the 3 wise ladies into their independent professional bodies, also decided to establish for the first time school leadership and management division within the Ghana Education Service, to really train those who want to become managers of the educational institutions. Fortunately, we got into a partnership with VACI International and Institute of Educational Planning, Cape Coast, Ghana Education Service itself, and the Ministry of Health, Education Supporting, to ensure that we will have a pathway for those who start the profession and think that our talent is in becoming school heads. We don't want to become classroom teachers alone, to go into that. If you want to become a hospital administrator, now in this country, you can even take courses in Legon up to the master's level in hospital administration. Such, we cannot let the schools be necessarily managed by those who don't have the skills, the attitude, and the values to manage the school. The set of skills needed to manage a school are totally different from the set of skills needed to manage a class. And we should ensure as a country that those who are managing our classes or our schools have got the right skills and talents and values to do that. So that is what NTC has been able to do. For the first time, they've been able to start teacher licensing, which undoubtedly became an issue in the country. But the number of people who registered to have their license exams nearly reached the figure of 30,000 students. So we can say in all certainty that the reform is a very, very, very challenging. But Ghanaians or teachers who have finished teacher training college and teacher universities voted en masse with their money and themselves to write the teaching exam. I know that matter is in court, so I cannot speak about it. But the results is available for publication anytime soon that we finish with the case. It's not heartwarming anything about the results that came out. The Ghana Education Service, in its first time also, in this last recruitment exercise to support the double track, also did an exam. The reason is simple. They want to make sure that those that are holding the teacher certificate have the aptitude and the knowledge to really teach like professionals. That result was also not very encouraging, but the recruitments have been done and teachers have been posted to the various schools based upon the fact that those schools required those teachers. So that is a bit of the reform process story where we are. The National Teaching Council has started the licensing exams. The career pathway is being given to the Ghana Education Service. The National Inspectorate Board has even started that. The pilots will start the inspection of schools, such that if whether it's a government school or it's a private school, if the environment in that school is not safe and secure, it can regulate. It can say that the school should be shut down and alternative means made for the kids of the school to get some. If there's a school that teachers are abusing or pupils are abusing teachers, we have to take immediate intervention measures. So in our reform process, we consulted extensively with international bodies that have gone through teacher reform, like UNESCO. And UNESCO has a benchmark framework of 9 standards that constitute a comprehensive teacher policy, which we are trying to emulate in coming out with our own national teacher education policy that we would go through very soon. But in the meantime, between 2012 and 2018, government, in its quest to improve quality of education, decided with a partnership of DFID, the agency of the British government that supports countries around the world, international agencies that support countries around the world, started a program by improving teacher reforms in this country. They worked with what we call the ministry called TTEL, Teacher Transforming Education and Learning, that has been spearheaded by Professor Adamu Mensah again and Kwesi Adegboyim. If there's anybody that have done consultative process through the length and breadth of this country, I'm yet to meet anybody in my readings. They've done, I don't know, they live stakeholder meetings from Wale Wale through Ilubu, from, I don't know, from Tumu to Aflao. They've been every part of the country engaging teachers in how do we transform ourselves as to our teaching in the class, as to students learning in the class, and making sure that Ghana attains what we seem to be elusive, quality education in this country. Eventually, they came up with a teacher standard, a national teaching standard for the whole country that every teacher can be benchmarked against. They came up with another document, the framework, curricular framework, that when you are going through school, like medical school, like teaching in a university or in a college of education, what you have to go through to be able to come out to write your licensing examination to make you become a qualified teacher. So all these documents were done. It meant that when this government received the documents and cabinet approved it, cabinet came out with certain decisions based upon those documents. So cabinet adopted the national teaching standards as a document for this country. Any institution that wants to undertake teacher education should abide by those standards, so that when that person comes out, that person can be measured as, in this country called Ghana, you've done the right thing. They were supported with the international bodies, supported by international bodies. So we can show that our national teacher standards, it has its equivalents around the world. It is not inferior to that exists anywhere in the world. Our curricular framework for the initial teacher training, when we finished and we adopted it, we realized together with the teachers that our initial teacher training diploma, that was 3 years, was not doing enough as content side to enable the teachers to come out and teach the kids really as we wanted them to teach. There was a need to improve the content side in those curriculum, and it meant that increasing the number of years, instead of 2+1, it was nearly 2 3/4 +1. So cabinet decided that, okay, now the colleges of education that exist that are doing diploma, they are in a sort of a midway. They are not a university because they don't award their own degrees. Neither are they post-sec or existing within Ghana Education Service as they used to be. So they are in the middle somewhere. So government decided that no, we can't continue to let our colleges of education hang. That somebody is going through an institution called College of Education, ended up with a diploma, but the diploma is not even from that institution you are calling College of Education. All the diplomas were still from University of Cape Coast. So we have to move on. In the meantime, it is not only University of Cape Coast that was doing teacher education. We have the University of Education Winneba that has been for years also doing teacher education. We have the University of Development Studies that is also doing teacher education. You have the University of Ghana that is starting teacher education. You have Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology that is also doing teacher education. We have Valley View University that is doing teacher education. And some other, what we call colleges, university colleges, that is also doing it. So there's a need to improve the colleges and move them from just ordinary college of education that exists on paper to university colleges. Government also then decided that since it's not only University of Cape Coast that is delivering teacher training in the university, all the public universities that are doing teacher education should share amongst themselves through not a share, I don't mean the fittest, the strongest will take the best, no. to share among through a rational process. These colleges of education, which are now numbering about 46, we seem to be growing our colleges of education, amongst themselves, so that from next year or from this year, these colleges would apply, students wanting to go to these colleges will apply through their universities to go into those training colleges. They become university colleges of education. So that is where we are. So this year, all the colleges had to go through a strict criteria for their curricula to be approved by National Accreditation Board and NCTE. 4 of the universities banded together, brought in curricular writing experts from abroad, supported by the same DFID, and got the curricula. That's the KNUST, UEW, University of Ghana, and University of Development Studies. Of course, University of Cape Coast is our premier teacher university, so they went on their own and developed their curricula. Even though it was approved late, it has also been approved. But starting this year, all teachers going to the College of Education would graduate with a university degree, not a diploma, starting this year. And next year, the other universities will also take on their part of their colleges. And in next year's application, if you want to go to my own school, college in my own constituency, St. Louis Training College, or St. Louis College of Education, and that St. Louis College of Education happens to be part of University of Ghana, you buy University of Ghana application forms and apply and go to the St. Louis Training College. And when you finish, your degree will bear the name of University of Ghana and not any other university. It is also to help the university develop the capacity of teachers within the colleges of education. Now, if you don't hold a PhD, a very soon PhD plus certificate in education, you will not be able to teach in the university. But most of our college of education lecturers don't hold a PhD. So we have given them time to improve their knowledge, again, through the British government support and other things that the National Council for Tertiary Education is doing, to help improve their capacity. So if you are part of the university, and the universities have faculty renewal program and capacity building program, the universities would help the lecturers there get onto PhD courses and also help improve their capacity. Every capacity improvement would inure to the benefit of the Ghanaian school child to improve the learning and outcomes. In Finland, the people who teach in kindergartens and in their primary schools are PhD holders. In Ghana, one thing that those who send me the clips never compare in Ghana is the diploma students. So there's a difference. So the best talent somewhere goes to the most impressionable kids, but we seem to have it differently. That is why government took the position that very soon everybody who wants to teach in this country should at least have a degree. It has consequences on the national budget because you employ degree holders, you employ them at a higher scale than you employ a diploma. But that's not what government is thinking. Government is thinking that learning outcomes is more important than the budgets that we are pinching. So that is where we are on the teacher, on the DFID support side, that this year we have been able, together with cabinet decisions, we have been able to start a degree process, a degree program rolling. But like I said, the teacher standards policy, they've got 9 dimensions. That everything we are trying to do is to encourage ourselves to address all those 9 issues that will lead us to a comprehensive teacher policy and a comprehensive improvement in the capacity of teachers, remuneration, and everything. The first one is teacher recruitment and retention. What we inherited as a country was a teacher recruitment standard that was lower than the university standard. So if university, you had to have 6 passes. In the diploma, you had to have about 4. We've improved it in the last 2 years to become just as equal to the university. When government decided to undertake that process, even some of the hardened educationists came telling us, if we do that, nobody will go into the teacher training college. But I can put on record that we had the highest number of applications for training college since it started in Ghana this year. So the students even knew that because it was a lower entry barrier, if you went in, you were categorized at Wabonti Nasabe Oko Training College. Because Oboboko University, you know, had the higher qualification. Those who are going to the university were going with a higher qualification. It is because you couldn't make it. That is why you are going to a training college. But when we made it co-equal, we realized that lots more Ghanaians want to go there. It has implications for government budget, but that is a government that intends to make education the centerpiece of its policy, and we would address that. So those who are going in have got the same qualifications as those who are applying to go to University of Ghana or University of Cape Coast or University of Development Studies. We hope that after they graduate, with the new reforms in the curricula, they really want to become teachers. If they don't write the licensing exam. I have two of my mates who are not practicing doctors since we finished medical school. Nobody says that when you finish teacher training college or you finish university doing engineering, your life work should be about engineering. I have my deputy national free SHS coordinator who finished mechanical engineering. So it is not the fact that you went to university to become a doctor or an accountant. That is the lifelong profession that you choose to do. University education is for different purposes. But if you finish university education and you want to stay in the teacher field, you have to go through your regulators to assess and make sure that you are fit to teach. So that, after improving the degree, now when teachers finish and go to the classroom, they don't have the excuse that we want to do top-up or want to do distance education or want to do anything. That takes the teacher away from the teaching and learning environment of the class. Now when you finish, everybody also has a degree. So the degrees now that are going to exist are specialisms, the word that I hadn't heard till very recently. Specialisms does not mean that you're a specialist, but now the degree that you finish your College of Education or the university you're going to get as maybe a B.Ed early child education. That means you can teach from KG to P3. B.Ed primary education. That means you can teach from primary 1 to primary 6. A B.Ed junior high school. That means you can teach in the junior high school because the qualifications are different. And a B.Ed senior high school, that is those who are doing normal university degrees, that qualification is also different. But they are all bachelors. So when the single spine salary structure says equal work, equal pay, equal certification, equal everything, you are all degree holders. So you all start from the same point, not a lower grade. So that is what we are trying to do. And in the retention, like I said, if you had a diploma, you started from a lower scale. You spent so much time doing top-up, 2 years doing top-up. And most of them, by the time they finish top-up, they leave even education. They don't want to be. There's nothing that says you have to stay anyway. They don't want to. You have to choose where you want to stay. And you can't take it from teachers as well. So we know that the changes, the slight changes that we've done would improve our recruitment, which are shown, demonstrated in the first year. Over 53,000 people applied this year. We know that when they finish with the new curricula, with the enhanced capacity, they may want to stay as teachers. Of course, 99% of people who go through law stay in law one way or the other. Medicine, stay in medicine. The second point about the 9 standards has to do with the initial training, which I've described in details, what we've gone through with different and the British government support to change the curriculum from a diploma to a degree. And even continuing after you finish, every profession now does, they call it continuous professional development. The NTC, the National Teaching Council, with the support of the Japanese government, going through the pre-tertiary teacher professional development and teacher something, also has a career pathway, continuous professional development arm that they work with Ghana Education Service, that they will take, that every teacher in training will have a continuous professional development training as such. The third one was deployment. Of the 9, the third one was deployment. we have a situation on our hands that when you look at the number of teachers on the Ghana Education Service payroll, we might find it difficult or justification employing more teachers. But that is the global situation. We did a presentation to Cabinet and we were able to demonstrate that in certain different fields, like the specialism I spoke about, early grade or primary or junior high school, in some places they are over capacity. But it also doesn't demonstrate the truth thing on the ground. Because you go to Ashanti region and you find that there are a lot of vacancies or overcapacity in primary education. But when you start drilling down the districts, you find that in certain metropolitan areas called Kumasi, there are more teachers than you need. But in Section district, there are less teachers. So deployment is going to be a key stuff in our next area of rationalization. That when you look at the employment certificates, employment letters generated by Ghana Education Service just about a week ago or 2 ago, they employ teachers directly to schools. Hitherto, they say, oh, Ashanti region says we need 9,000 primary school teachers. They will take 9,000 primary school teachers and dump them in the regional office in the Ashanti region. The human resource manager then distributes, invariably, they distribute towards where the teachers are not needed. So even though we are employing many more teachers every year, we seem to employ them to the same areas where we don't need them, and nobody wants to go where we need them. So this current round of employment, the teachers were sent directly to the schools. Because what did we do? The Ghana Education Service, the Deputy Director General, in coming up with a timetable with the schools, found out that there are some deficits in the schools. So the schools declared deficits. We need an English teacher, we need a physics teacher, we need a teacher in construction management. So when Ghana Education recruited, they recruited a construction management teacher and posted them to the school that needed it, which never happened before sometime 2 weeks ago. So the deployment, we are trying to get support to do a whole rationalization scheme that from henceforth, teachers will be put where they are needed. Simple as that. Career structure and pathways I've talked about through the PTDDM and things I've addressed. That a teacher can stay on a classroom track like a doctor can stay on the clinical track and become a consultant. A teacher can stay on the classroom track and become a consultant teacher and become the highest paid teacher. Teachers don't have to leave the classroom to go into management to be on a higher scale. The teacher employment and working conditions. It is true that Ghana Education Service have not reviewed the teachers' conditions of service for some time. But it is also true that I've met all the unions and I've started the engagement process encouraging Ghana Education Service to sit down with the unions who have the bargaining certificate and sit down with the fair wages and salary structure that we have to have a conditions of service for teachers. I'm not sure the last time the condition of service was written or done. But this is something we are not going to run away from because people have to work with the right conditions of service. Teacher reward and remunerations. Conditions of service, remuneration is part of conditions of service. But teacher reward, we in this country started our National Best Teacher Prize about 20 years ago. Only to find out that there's a World Teacher Prize being organized with a huge amount of money for the best teacher. $1 million for the best teacher. Only to attend the conference that started about 5-6 years ago, only to attend the conference and told that no Ghanaian has ever been packed. We started ours longer than yours. So if anything at all, Ghanaians should be participating. So we set about finding out why. We found out the reasons, we reformed, and last year, a Ghanaian teacher, an extraordinary maths teacher, was one of the first 30 or 50 contestants that was honored in Dubai through the Global Education and Skills Forum Vaki Foundation, which is a good thing. And I know that since we have changed the outlook of our teacher prize to sync with what they are looking globally, more teachers this year are going to be part. 30 of our teachers have applied to be part of the Global Teacher Prize, which in itself is an encouragement. We would also encourage the unions to participate very much more in the planning stages of the National Teacher Rewards, so that we can reward teachers and duly acknowledge them. I can read because of a teacher. The teacher standards, I said, which is the 7th part of the 9th that we have already addressed, that Ghana has a fitting national teaching standards. The last but not the least is accountability. The 2017 GEMS report, Global Education and Monitoring Report, that I launched in a country down south, not recently, Maputo. Ghana had the privilege of launching that document of UNESCO. The whole theme about the GEMS report was about teacher accountability. Teacher accountability, please don't misconstrue teacher accountability as the teacher rendering accounts. Because after all, teachers don't hold money, so why are they going to render accounts? But teacher accountability has to do with a deeper philosophical thing. As to the child that has been given to you, and you looking after the child, how do we together sit down and say that what we are doing for the child is for the beneficial for the child? So teacher accountability has a process to do with engaging parents. Teacher accountability has to do with engaging school authorities. Teacher accountability has to do with engaging educational management persons. Teacher accountability is you sitting down and looking at the kids that have been entrusted to you and finding out that how many of those kids are meeting the minimum competencies the kids should before they leave your care. It's even bigger than that. It's retooling the classroom such that they can take care of children with disabilities as well. So we seem to be tasking our teachers with so much work, especially the kindergartens and the primary teachers with so much work, that we have to, as a country, begin to look at how do we support our teachers in the classroom. If you go to a ward, certainly there's a doctor, but there's a nurse. There's a doctor and a nurse, and there's an elderly who cleans up patients. There's people who come to sweep the classroom. Are we putting our teachers, especially the primary, KG and primary, in front of the class without support and expecting to reap rewards that we haven't invested in? So these are the things that we talk about teacher accountability. But hey, everybody has to be accountable. School governance. We've already talked about addressing that issue about school governance. And I spoke about at length what National Teaching Council, what Ghana Education Service is doing, and what we are all trying to do. We believe that when we satisfy those benchmarks, and interestingly, Ghana is on 2 task forces. The World Education World International Task Force and the Teacher Task Force, all being sponsored by the Norway government, to see to the actualization of these 9 standards that I've talked about. And Ghana is a guinea pig of both. Because everybody, you know, when you're at the center of the world, it's easy to travel here. So everybody travels here with good research and ugly research and bad research. But we, together with the National Teaching Council and some of our preeminent educators, we are even members of an international body on Education Workforce International to bring about actualization of the UNESCO's teacher standards policy, which we are trying to do. So they will measure Ghana on many of those things. One thing that was coming out of that is that if we are part of all this, then accountability comes in. So that when we have an assessment framework, we can say that yes, we are not waiting for PISA to come from OECD or EDGAR to come from any other country to tell us our kids are not doing well. I don't particularly like that. I will be proud that we will have a national assessment framework that says our kids are meeting the standards for which we have set our kids. Briefly, that is what government has been trying to do with our teacher education reforms. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is John Elliott from the Finder newspaper. I want to know how many teachers government has employed, aside those from NAPCO, to support the free SHS.
My name is MF Anansi with Joy News. My question is still about teachers. In recent times, there's been cases of sexual abuse, and the teaching directorates have been asked to investigate. Why don't we allow our police, to take over, since they are criminal cases? Often we hear that the directorates are investigating, but we do not allow the police to investigate the matter. I want to know why.
My name is Melvin from Daily Guide. Please, I want to know, with the teachers' licensing exams, how will they enhance teacher and the quality of teachers in Ghana, especially when we have a regime and we have a system where examination malpractice is a common issue in the country. So how will teacher licensing exams enhance quality when we have examination malpractices in the country? Thank you.
Cameron Dodu, columnist, Daily Guide. Sir, I tremble when I think of the complexities that you are faced with in education. In 1970, when I was editor of the Daily Graphic, I had an argument at a forum like this with Pa Willie. Pa Willie was changing teacher training colleges into secondary schools. And I said, Pa, the earlier a child gets grounded in good education, the better are his chances of progressing well. Now, you want to take away our teacher training colleges and make them into secondary schools. Then who are going to teach our children? I think from then on, the problems have mounted and mounted and mounted until today. I don't even know where to begin when I think of it. But what I want to stress is that I think there is a culture of imposition in the Ministry of Education. You are dealing with very, very complex issues. And yet, all we hear is, we are going to do this, we're going to do that, this was in our manifesto and therefore we'll implement it. But there is no other organization in this country that touches so many lives as the Ministry of Education. And I don't think you should impose policy. If you want to change something drastically, please publish your views and invite the public to react to them and take them seriously before you implement. Because if you go on like this, we'll be changing things for political reasons, for social reasons, for economic reasons. And in the meantime, we're in a melting pot of something I can't even describe. I have seen a university graduate say, I have sent you the email.
My name is Blessed. I'm with Class 91.3 FM. Dr. Matthew Puku Prempe. Teacher training colleges across the country are seen as a means to an end by many of the trainees who go into those institutions, the end being employment. We have always had a situation where the system has been automated. Once you come out from teacher training institutions, you are posted to the schools. Since we are talking about reforms, what's government's consideration going forward about the automated posting of teachers? Very recently, that's my next question, the teacher trainees... No, I'm asking two questions, that's what I'm doing. Okay. My second question, the Teacher Trainees Association of Ghana very recently was surprised about a directive asking them to run the national service. Is there a guarantee that after the service, all these teachers will be recruited or employed by the Education Ministry? Thank you very much.
The Ministry of Education, since Kwame Nkrumah's time, has been the lead agency of education in this country. And for that matter, no matter where discussions start from or are generated, once it becomes a policy decision of the country, it necessarily has to be spearheaded by the minister. It is not the other way around that we impose. I can tell you that nothing that by tenure as the Minister of Education, a directive has come, that is an imposition. It has all been subjected to the rigorous, because you see, the stakeholder meetings you might not hear. You might not necessarily hear, it is not advertised that widely. But I can give you an example. When we started Double Track, I met from district directors of education, heads of institutions, CHAS, unions, not once, 4 times, agencies, NGOs and COs in education. My ministerial advisory board, one member is the Ghana National Coalition for Education. They are on my ministerial advisory board. We have seasoned educators like Professor Namohamed Sah, Fobi, and SOA. We don't take teaching as any other exercise this government does. So you can be rest assured that if these educational specialists or experts don't agree with me, it will never go past the president. Because the president believes in education so much so that when he summons educational experts, I am not even there. He tests and engages before the approvals come. When you talk about Double Track, even clergy who don't necessarily teach, but who operate a lot of schools were consulted. But those things are not in the public's view, so it may be taught as if it is an imposition. No, it is not. It is subject to the rigorous of things that you want it to demand. Sorry, I won't give this example, but I have to. Imagine me going to tell Professor Namohamed Sah sitting here that I am coming to do this. Can I tell you that? He has been part of any educational reform for what God knows. Professor SOA. So I can't. No matter how you see my face, I am humble enough to learn at their feet. I can't, and I don't do that. And this ministry, as far as I'm concerned, has not done a single directive or policy decision that has been an imposition. Personally, I have engaged heads. When I met heads of schools, it was not my deputy or my most reverend professor who was even speaking. It was my good self as a humble number 1 servant in that ministry. So take it. I'll let you come back. So we don't do that. And we'll subject everything to the thought. This morning, I've shared a document, and I'll keep sharing it with educational aspects about where we have to go as our national assessment framework. Because we in Ghana should have a national assessment framework. And I'm sharing it now with the experts. Not that we have taken the decision even now. So we will get there. But we do evolve. Anis Haifa, who writes profusely like yourself, is a member of the Ghana Education Service Council. They subject me to a barrage 2 hours, 3 hours test. So when you see my face smiling, don't say I've gone through the fire before I can come and stand before you and speak. So we don't do that. I want to show you that it is not easy when decisions are made to bring everybody on board. But you hope that the decisions are made for the interest of the whole country. Like I said, training colleges have gone through a lot, like you said. There was a time there were over 100 training colleges that were reduced to 36 or 20 something. 38, it has gone. And it has stayed 38 for about a couple of decades before it has gradually in the last 3-4 years risen to 46. But when there were training colleges, not many universities were doing teacher education. Now when you look at the number of students that are turning out, teacher trainees that are turning out in the universities, Winneba alone churns out over 20,000 teachers, university education Winneba. Churns out more than the total number of people who are in the total number of training colleges. All the training colleges together turn out about 15,000. Winneba alone probably turns out more. Bring on University of Cape Coast. Bring on University of Development Studies. Bring on University of Science and Technology. Bring on University of Ghana. That was even the premier institution that was training teachers in this country before Kwame Nkrumah moved into after establishment of University of Cape Coast. So we have a lot of teachers coming. And there are differences that we try to straighten it out by improving through the different support, improving their certificate and their capacity. So that is what we are trying to do. The licensing does not improve quality. Examination actually doesn't demonstrate that you have learned, but we still go through examination because that is the best possible assessment that we have chosen for ourselves. That is why you see educational experts say end of year examination is not the best assessment for a child because he has learned the whole year. Why do you subject that child to only 1 or 2 days? But we haven't changed West African Examination Council in the last 30 or 40 years being with us. Even though we may accept that sit down and go and write and pass may not be the wrong. And I'm not sure any part of the world that has changed the exams. But what we have tried to do is to improve by doing continuous assessment. And when you do BEC, I had a discussion with the West African Examination Council, that if BEC has 30% continuous assessment or something, how is it that people jump from first year and write it in final year? And how are you able to grade them? It's a discussion we are having with West African Examination Council. Examination malpractice never means that the examination is not warranted. 1 or 2 people going to steal doesn't mean that stealing is legitimate and everybody is corrupt. So please, let's distinguish. Ghana, West Africa, since I have been a student in this country, there are years that you hear West African Examination Council examinations leaking. As an editor, you didn't come across it. It does. Now, we haven't stopped using West African Examination Council. We seek as human beings to improve the systems for which we have agreed to be living with. And that's exactly what we can do. That's exactly what we can do. There is not a single regulator of a profession. There is not a single regulator of a profession that hasn't got its own assessment forms for which it comes out to say that you are. In the law school, you go to Makola for 2 years. People forget that Makola is not part of any university. You go to Makola 2 years. It is the way the lawyers would want to assess you. And when you go, you write all sorts of exams: constitutional law, criminal law, environmental law, every law you write. But even still, when you finish, you go and do a pupillage for a year. That is what the lawyers have sat down to say, that you have to go through this before you can call yourself a lawyer and be given a stamp to practice. And even when you finish and you get your stamp, every year you have to be in good standing. You can't go to the court if you don't renew your license in a year. The Chief Justice has struck down on lawyers, even standing up in court and somebody coming up to say that your license hasn't been renewed, they throw your case away. That is the way lawyers have decided. The accountants have decided that you go through part 1, part 2, part 3. And even when you finish lately, you have to go and work with an accountancy firm for something before you become called an accountant. The doctors have decided that you have to do 2 years house job. So the way a profession decides to do its licensing exams is up to that profession. But there is no profession that will license you without a formal assessment. I haven't seen one. Sexual abuse. I'm a patron of one of the NGOs against sexual abuse. And it is one of the issues I've had the most heated debates with my own Ghana Education Service. The decision I know from Ghana Education Service that if there's an allegation, the police are contacted to come and do a formal investigation. But the police coming to do a formal investigation does not preclude the Ghana Education Service from taking decisions immediately. So what they do is normally, if now, what I know, I've been told, if the allegations are made, you are put out of reach of that child before it is even formally called. If it's a teacher, maybe you have to be moved out of that school so that we protect the child. Our deepest concern is about that child. Teacher employment. I'm asking for the numbers. I can't give false numbers. But I can tell you that even the limited recruit that we did last year was about 6,720. The double track intends to employ about 8,872. But so far, 6,720 have been employed just to support the free SHS. we know that every year we employ over 14,000 people who have come through our teacher training college. But the questioner on automaticity, it is never true in this country that a teacher gets automatic employment. It is never true. In fact, between 2012 and 2016, no graduate teacher was employed. So it is not. Those who are in diploma training colleges did get employment. But even before we came into government, the link between employment, automaticity school and employment had been cut for 4 years. That's why the teacher training allowance was stopped. The teacher training allowance was something that was established through the Ghana Education Service, because teachers were employed by Ghana Education Service for training as pupil teachers. So even when they were in school, they were given an allowance that was equivalent to pupil teachers. So they were given numbers. So they were already, even though they were in school, they were already part of the payroll of government. And as far as the training allowance was stopped, that link was broken. So it's not this government that is breaking a link. Now when you realize, I haven't talked about that, but CTAG, that is the teachers in tertiary space, College of Education, have been on strike for the last 3 weeks. The reason is simple that they are on strike. Now that we have upgraded them to tertiary status, they want to get the same market premium and DNRA as a university student. That is the whole strike, that is what it's about. We can't say, do we support them if government has said you have upgraded them, pay them, yeah, we'll go through the systems and pay them. But we are asking them to sit down and negotiate with fair wages and salaries. Because though they are tertiary, they are not university. So we have non-university tertiary institutions like colleges of nurses, like colleges of education, like even polytechnics. Before you get upgraded, you are not even a full university status. And the premiums and BRAs enjoyed are different. So we would continue to engage CTAG till we come to the resolution of that. So what we have said is that now that we are all tertiary, imagine that there's a diploma student coming out of University of Education, Winneba, who has to do the national service. And there's a diploma student coming of nursing college who is doing national service. And I say diploma students coming out of teacher training should not do national service. National service is not where you studied. It is a law that has been with us as far as you are concerned since you started becoming an editor. And everybody has to enjoy. National Service Coordinator is here. They wrote to all agencies that if you haven't done national service, you cannot even be self-employed. Because when you become self-employed, you have to go and register your business entity with the Registrar General. And you have to pay taxes. If you haven't done your national service, you cannot even register. It is in the law. So we say we are bringing national service teacher training people to fulfill the law. We didn't do it arbitrarily. The Ghana Education Service, before they employ you, have to put you on probation for a year. The National Teaching Council says you have to do an induction for a year to ensure, as part of the assessment process, you can become a qualified teacher. What I have done as Education Minister is to say that you cannot say that they should go and do probation here for 1 year, induction here for 1 year, 2 years, and come and do national service 1 year, making it 3 years. All those 3 things should be done consecutively, so that when they are doing their probation, it is recognized as their national service and it is recognized as their teaching. I don't think I've done wrong. But also, I met with the teacher trainee advocates, the Coalition for the Newly Trained Teachers, and the Teacher Trainee Association of Ghana. We met. Subsequently, they went to meet the National Service. They signed a memorandum of understanding with them. They met the Ghana Education Service. And eventually, I have a copy in my hand. The teacher trainees have accepted to do national service. And today, we have registered over nearly 16,000 trainees who want to do the national service. and get the certification. Because when you are doing your probation, you cannot be employed full-time as a full-time worker on the controller accountant payroll. So we hope that by the time they finish national service, GS will have declared vacancies were there, and the formal process of which you can enroll to full-time employee will be done. Your biometrics will be taken. The IPPD will be done. So that is what we are seeking to do. We are not seeking to discriminate. Nurses who are also colleges of nurses are doing it. Everybody does national service in this country. Even if you went to a university to do a PhD and you hadn't done your national service before, you have to do your national service before you can be employed.
My name is Kojo Ajman. I work with City TV. Honorable, you made mention that most of the teacher exams that were taken, their performances were not encouraging. How bad is the situation, and how can it be improved in the coming years? And my second question is, China is looking for a lot of teachers to come and teach English there. Have we explored other ways of training more teachers to export to other countries, since we don't have what it takes to employ most of them? And also, who qualifies to teach at the teacher training college? Who qualifies to teach at the teachers training college as it stands now?
I'm Pamela from GNTV. Honorable, I want to find out, during the 2019 budget presentation, the finance minister disclosed that 3 public tertiary institutions will be consolidated. That's the GIL, the GIG, and of course, NAFTI. I want to find out what prompted this decision and also the processes that will be involved. Thank you.
From what we are hearing, it means that in that context, pupil teachers are going to be completely cut off from the scenario because they may not be considered. But I remember when I was in Form 4 at Imperial Secondary School, the teacher who was teaching me biology was a diploma holder. People were having their masters, but he was far, far, far better than them. Far better than them. Yes, that's the truth. So I don't know whether you have a window for them to jump onto the bandwagon by way of creating an avenue for them to better themselves, either by certificate or something. Because if I have a degree, I'm not a teacher trainee or whatever, it means I cannot teach. But I have the penchant, I have the knack, I have the passion for the job. What can you do for me so that I can also join the teaching bandwagon? My second question has to do with now that people are, you said about 53 or 56,000 people have registered for the teacher training course. It then means that a lot more people are going to apply, okay? It means that a lot more people are going to apply because it's a degree. Because somebody can use that as a first step to jump on to do other things. What happens to the teachers' training allowance? Are you still going to hold on to it, or you are going to abrogate it? Because it becomes a problem when a lot more people enroll and then you have to pay them, because the argument was that give the people more chance to enroll and then quash the teacher training allowance, or give the allowance and a few more people enroll onto the bandwagon. Thank you very much.
I heard somebody make the argument that we are stifling enrollment, we are suppressing enrollment by paying teacher trainees. And I was on record to say that they should compare the number the year before and the year after introduction. We haven't. That is not the point of restoring the teacher trainees. If you have been in our training colleges, the environment is totally different from the university's environment. We, as a government, thought that there was a need for us to continue to support teacher trainees because they do a vital work for the nation. We have paid and we are paying and we will pay. The title pupil teachers, we have to examine it. Who is a pupil teacher? The example you just gave was not a kindergarten supplementary teacher or a primary school. You're talking about a secondary school. You talked about a secondary school with a diploma student. The title pupil teacher belongs to that group of people who are not certified teachers. It's not a teacher who is not being employed to teach or be employed secondary. So that teacher, and if you listen to me carefully, I talked about supporting teachers in classrooms. And that if I go to the ward, I make an example of the ward, that the doctor exists with the nurses, the physiotherapists, the ward elderlies, and the cleaners. We should start thinking about the same thing for the classroom to support the teacher to deliver. So we are not. Example, NAPCO is teacher assistants. They are not necessarily certified teachers. They have not been employed by Ghana Education Service. They are going to assist teachers in the schools to do a particular work. So though they don't come as teachers because they are not qualified teachers, nor necessarily certified teachers employed by Ghana Education Service, they are employed by government to help assist the teachers in various schools to do some work. If a NAPCO teacher or an assistant wants to migrate to become a permanent employee, he or she would have to go through the same system to ensure that he's a qualified teacher. Yes, the court precludes me from demonstrating some of these things, but very soon we'll finish with the court case and we'll publish. Ghana will not be the first country to publish teacher assessment exams. The last one I read was in Michigan, United States. I don't want to disclose that. I'm not sure. My use of the word not encouraging will be, if I'm using the word for Michigan, it will be appalling. For the Michigan one, it's appalling. And mine is not encouraging, but probably it's better than the Michigan one. Who qualifies to teach? We have moved the training colleges to the university colleges now through a system of training colleges, colleges of education, to now university colleges. We've moved from post-sec certificates to diploma, going to degree. And if you look at the benchmarks established by National Council for Tertiary Education and National Accreditation Board, a teacher who is teaching somebody for a degree must necessarily have a PhD. Or in the university, if you have a master's or an MPhil, you'll be employed as a teaching assistant. So it's not going to be very different because we're all getting paid the same thing. Because if you are called a lecturer in the College of Education, you would be earning, or you should, or you would aspire. If the category of that is the same as a polytechnic, you would earn the same as a polytechnic lecturer. If the parity is with the university, you would earn the same as a university lecturer. So necessarily a staff audit is being conducted. It's being done in the technical universities. It's being conducted in the colleges to make sure that those who are teaching have the right requirements. And if you don't, you are given the time to build your capacity to hold the right requirements. So yes, there will be some in the colleges of education who have PhDs, and there will be some with masters, and there may be some with other degrees that I don't know of. Training for export is high on the agenda. I've had the discussions with the World Bank less than 2 weeks ago, where they want Ghana to open up and bring in fellow African countries who are in a more dire straits than ourselves, like Liberia and Sierra Leone, to train their teachers and also to export teachers to them in the interim. I've had discussions with the Guineans who want to export, bring us French teachers. Of course, we are also lacking seriously in French teachers. Bring French teachers to us and they will take English teachers. In fact, I'm supposed to meet the Guinean ambassador this Friday or something to continue with the discussions. So we are exploring everything. I believe that Ghana stands at the crossroad of exporting some of our human talent and earning even more from them as a country. That the rigmarole of employers when there's no witherall to employ. So we would explore and give the alternate positions to everybody who so desires. A country like Philippines exports all manner of things and human beings to all over the world. And I can tell you they are exporting house helps to Ghana now. Yes. Yes. A country like Thailand, Vietnam are bringing house helps to us. Because we cannot trust ourselves. Anyway, I hope the last question was GIL, GIJ, NAFTI. Before the advent of Matthew Boku-Prempeh in the Ministry of Education, these institutions all wanted to be universities. In fact, my handing over notes is in. In fact, the current government took it through another stakeholder meeting chaired by Professor Yanka. And in fact, none of them qualified to be a university. The other thing is that they all get award degrees from University of Ghana or one other university. But there are three separate fundamental important institutions. Ghana Institute of Journalism, Ghana National NAFTI, and then Ghana Institute of Languages. And we felt we've taken the position that the three can be three schools in a university and award their own degrees. In fact, if you look at the genesis of University, George Grant's University of Mines in Takwa, you realize that it started as a technical institute and it migrated to a college within the University of Science and Technology, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, before it became an independent, that time it was School of Mines, Takwa. Because it became from School of Mines, Takwa, it migrated to become the smallest public university in the country. So we put it together as a college, we put it together as a university with three schools that will pass the test of NAB. They award their degrees, we improve their facilities and resources to them. And if one graduates in a year, in 10 years' time, it can be an independent university anyway. So for the immediacy, we want to put them together because they serve the same technical vocational space. Put them together as a university, awarding their own degrees and take it from there. We have a lot of institutions that started as part of a university that are universities of their own. FIAPRE, University of Energy and Natural, started as a school of forestry. It went through school under KNUST, and now is a full university. The president last week or last couple of weeks announced the establishment of two universities, one in Wa and one in Navrongo, which are parts of UDS. So that's how our universities have been established. But we want to bring it together, concentrate resources in the management space, and then form a university out of it. And then when they grow and they want to be on their own, nobody precludes them from being on their own. Thank you.
Just going back to what you were saying about integrating more regional countries to come into to come in and train our staff. The same applies for national service. So we've been discussing about trying to send some of our national service students, just because of the unemployment rate, so sending them out and then also getting others in and getting them to do various experience. And what are some of your thoughts around that?
No matter how eager and keen they are, with the slightest amount of suffering will come back to hurt you, because it will be blown out of proportion, to be reported in all manner of ways. So be careful. But we would encourage it. I said, I have been offered a Thai and somebody to come and look after my house. So I said, also we'll go through the documentation and everything. So wow, the Ghana Swasan. So if they are coming, we should go there. It's not only Thai babies, we can have Ghana babies in Thai. So thank you so much, and I hope it was really nice.